Hello peeps, Dee here. Welcome to my studio, welcome to my channel, and welcome to the Simple Cat Cane Part 2. Okay, it's not exactly Part 2, it's actually Day 2. Yesterday, I made this guy. I don't know what to say about this guy, except that it wasn't easy. I got all caught up. Anyway, I decided I will just keep the little gray kitty for some other use. And today I will go back and I'm going to teach you this cat. All right, this is one of my favorite simple little cat canes. I'm going to teach it to you. All right, let's get started. All right, so to make my kitty cane, I'm going to do my darndest not to make a huge cane, okay? Let's make this cane small. This is a simple cane. Let's make a small one. So what I'm starting with, 2 packages of black, 2 packages of white, 1 package equivalent of 1 package of violet. I may need more for the background. And then for cute little nose, this little nose, I'm going to need magenta, touch of orange, and some white. That's how we make that color. All right, so let me condition my clay, and I'll be back, because that's when we're going to start putting together our cute, simple little black cat cane. This is actually my cat Ditto. Okay. Okay, so I went ahead and added another 2 ounces of clay. Now, I know this clay is really old. You know how I know? Because the way it was packaged, it's packaged in 1 ounce samples. And this was sent to me from the factory. You know, in the old days, before Kato Polyclay was going bye-bye, they used to provide me with clay, but they don't do that anymore, okay? They do not do that anymore. So what I'm going to do with this clay is I took the packaging off, because the packaging is a pain in the butt. And I'm going to grab a hammer. I'm going to take, let me see if I can grab it really quickly. I'm over here. I'm still with you. I haven't gone anywhere. All right. I have this plastic. And, you know, this plastic is substantial. It's thick. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sandwich like that and then pound the stuffing out of this clay until it's very flat. Okay, now this is what I do when clay is old or it's very dry. All right, I'll be back. Okay, so I pounded it. Poundy, poundy. Now, ordinarily, when my clay isn't terribly stiff, I always begin by rolling with my rod, right? Yes, I do. Well, pounding with a hammer is sort of the equivalent when you have clay that is particularly tough or old or dry, okay? Or, to be honest, I'll probably do the same thing with the black. The white seems pretty darn soft, but it is just a faster way to get your clay conditioned if you are conditioning a lot of clay. Okay, so I'm just flattening it out just a bit, like so. All right, now, I'm going to cut it in half. Proceed with the equivalent of 1 package of clay. All right, rolling through the thickest setting. Ta-ta, ba-dum-ba-dum-ba-dum. Now roll through setting 2. My Costa machine starts at setting 0. Now setting 3. And this is where I will finish up, setting 3. Just like that. Okay. All right, so now that I've explained that, you don't need to watch me. I will finish up and then I will be back. Okay, so I conditioned just 1 block of white, all of the black, and all of the violet. Now it's time to mix the nose color. Okay, so as I said, it's going to be mostly magenta. and just a little bit of this color, which, this color, I do know the name of this color, it's orange. Okay. Don't need much of it, so I'm just going to take this much white. This is actually probably way more of this than I need. Now, having said that, the exact formula, there's a pretty wide range of what I think is acceptable. Okay, that's why I'm not giving you a specific amount of anything. This is what I'm going to start with. I'm sure it's going to be fine. Now, without the orange, this turns very pink. I don't necessarily want pink. I mean, it's not bad. Pink isn't bad. Of course, cats have pink noses. I just happen to prefer a more peachy color. Peachy, peachy. Looking pretty pink here. Until there's the orange. You can see I don't need much of it. My original nose is more orangey, I think. But as I said, the acceptable range for nose color for me is really, really big. So whatever color this turns out to be, that's the color it's going to be. Perfect. All right. Let us continue. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is make the eyeball. One eyeball. You guys know what that is? It's a simple bullseye cane. Now, my white clay is a lot softer than the other clay, which is fine for me. Fine, fine, fine. What I have to do is I have to take a little bit of this black that isn't quite as soft and soften it, because that is the center of the bullseye. And whatever happens here, I don't want that center to just like hang back. I want it to move with the rest of the cane. You guys know, sometimes those elements in the middle of a cane will hang back. They don't want to move. So I'm going to take this conditioning bar and I'm going to mix it in. Okay. So that I have a nice soft center to the eye. And it should move out just fine. So let me finish this and then I'll be back. All right, so what I'm going to do now is roll just a little cylinder of black. This is for 2 eyes. But remember, I'm not making a big cane. I really don't want to make a huge cane. If you're a beginning caner, I have to warn you, canes grow. You think you're working small, and before you know it, you've run out of something and you have to go buy more to finish. The first face cane I ever made, I started with the eyes. I was having so much fun. Basically, I made the eye almost the same size as my eye. Yeah, needless to say, it was a big cane. Needless to say, it was a big, ugly cane, and I had it forever. I never used it. That's why I had it forever. All right, so this white clay has been rolled through the thickest setting in the pasta machine. My pasta machine starts at 0. And I'm just going to wrap it around. Okay, let's just do it. Oh yeah, that was a horrible cane. That was horrible. I think what made it horrible was at the time, I didn't really understand that the Cernit I was using was very translucent, because in those days Cernit was only translucent. We're talking about a long time ago. And so as a consequence, there was no definition in it. It also wasn't really flesh color. It was white. I don't even think I used flesh color. I mean, it was just a disaster. Okay, now I'm just trying to roll and heal that seam. You guys saw what I did. Okay, let's push that in there just a little bit. Try to heal the seam. If the seam isn't wanting to heal to your satisfaction, particularly if you're using Kato, then you can take something like this, only clean, only clean, and actually whip it closed like that. Somehow the clay seems to respond to this kind of metal scraping against it, usually. Okay. All right. That's good. Not perfect. What is going on here? Do not tell me day 2 is going to be like day 1. Day 1 was not good. All right. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this with this softened black. Okay. And this has been rolled through setting number 3, although I don't think that's particularly important. Hung back a bit. Let me pull it up so it covers. And when you're doing a bullseye cane, of course, you want the edge of the sheet to meet the edge, edge to edge. Okay. From one eyeball, we will have 2 eyeballs. Yes. Okay, so let me roll this out. So we have our 2 eyeballs. Not going to make this cane very tall either. At the most 2 inches, maybe even less. Okay, I can see you're going into the scrap pile, aren't you? All right, now it's a good idea to have a ruler. Let me grab my ruler. I have so many rulers. Usually I cannot find a single one. All right, so that's 3 inches, 1.5 inches is going to be fine. Like so. So there are my kitty's eyes. Well, those are the ends, I think. Maybe these look better on this end. Actually, I tried to cut the cane in. I did cut the cane in half with the wrong side of the blade. Yeah, I did. I believe I'm going to put some space between those little eyeballs. All right, so let's make a nose. We got the eyes. Now we need to make the nose. Now, the nose is going to start out as triangle as well. as well. What am I talking about? We haven't made a triangle yet. Okay, so let us just say our little nose is going to be about that big. Okay, but what I'm going to do, because when you're caning small like this, it can get difficult to accomplish certain tasks just because it's small. So I think this is about the right volume for the nose. Might be a little more than necessary, but it'll be close. So I know that once this gets stretched out, actually, I need less of it than that. This will be the nose, all right? But it's easier to work on something this long and this big around than it is to work on something that's like that. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Now I'm going to wrap this with black clay once again. So let me take some of this black clay. I'm going to mix this in with it, and we will wrap it. I'm going to wrap it with, setting number 3. That'll be good. And we're going to shape the nose. Okay, so this is setting 3. I don't want this to be too terribly thick. You'll see why in a moment. Let's wrap her up. Okay. I love black cats. I love them. I think Dusty's my first cat that isn't black. Actually, my second. We had a snowy white cat once that adopted Vernon. I'm telling you, you think cats don't fall in love? They do. That cat fell in love with him. Okay, so now I have another bullseye, but I'm going to reshape it into a triangle just by squishing it down like this. Now, I'm not making it an equilateral triangle. I would like one side of it to be a little bit wider, longer than the other. You see? Like so. Like that. Now, I don't have to do any more to it than this. I think that this is a really nice nose shape. That'd be a nice nose shape, like that. But if you want to put a little more detail in the nose, it's easy enough to do. All you need is something like this needle. Then you're going to take it and press it in on one side like so, and on the other side like so. Just press it in. Something along these lines. You see? So it's different. Like so. That's a nice little nose. Now, we've got to fill that in, of course. If we don't fill that in, when we start reducing, what will happen is it will just get filled in, and then you'll lose the shape. So here's where you need a tiny little snake. Actually 2, one on each side. This will maintain that cute shape. Oops. Oopsie. It broke. Must have been an air pocket inside of my snake. Okay. So I'm just trying to fill that indent. If it's a little bigger, no problem. But I might as well try to actually fill it. another break. Like so, and like so. I'm glad I'm doing this again. Yesterday was just like, oh my God, I kept making mistakes. Some days are like that. You guys, do you have that feeling too? Now that nose is way too big, but that's okay. All right. Or I could make a cat with an extremely large nose. Why not? Okay, so let us wrap this again. Just going to wrap it up again. And then I think I'll reduce it some. Transfer the mark, cut along the mark, close it up. And I have a nose. Okay, so let me reduce this a bit. I have plenty of nose. Now, because the clay is soft, I can just start pretty much stretching it. If I let it sit here and cool down, then I would have to kind of noodle it around. So it's a good idea at this point just to stretch it out to the size you want and not wait. You just make more work for yourself if you wait. I have enough nose for 2 kitties, I think. So I'm kind of twisting and pulling at the same time. That twisting motion really helps. All right, so let us see what the approximate size of the nose is at this point. Still pretty big, I think. So I can take it down just a little bit more. The center area is smaller. So let's just cut from here and see what we have. Oh yeah, cute nose. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this nose just like so. All right, so now it's really time to start packing that area between the eyeballs. So I'm gonna pause now because, you know, sometimes just it's good. We have our features. It's just good to cut so you, it's not like one long run-on sentence, so I'm cutting here. Okay, so in this area, which is where I'm gonna fill out, I think I would like to soften the clay a bit more. And, you know, this black clay that I used here had some of the softened black in it, so it feels nice and supple. This clay feels kind of hard, so that's why I'm going to soften it up a bit, because I really don't want the clay in that area to hang back or to be resistant to moving. So I'm not going to make it super soft, just softer than it is right now. Yeah. So when you're working on canes like this, I guess, you know, the closer it is to the middle of the cane, and the softer the clay should be. You certainly don't want it really hard. Not in that area. Okay, so that feels pretty good. Not super soft, but it certainly is not as hard as it was. Now I'm going to wrap the eyes with this. Each eye. huge eyeball. Move the nose. All right, so let's see where we are now. If I put them together like that, maybe I put the nose down here. Let me cut the nose to the right length. Set aside extra nose. Now, do I want those eyes that close together? This one has roughly almost the equivalent of one eyeball between them. So these I find to be rather close. Now, if I put two more layers like this between them, does that make the equivalent of one eyeball? Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so let me roll each of these once again. I don't know that I told you this. These have been rolled through setting number 1, but it will probably differ for you. Just note, for me, my goal is actually to have the equivalent of one eyeball, the size of one eyeball between the two eyes. Okay, so I'm close. Close, close, close. Let me roll this. Okay. Just a tiny bit of this. And I'll wrap the other eye and see. Now, they might be too far apart. I'm looking now. It's possible. Okay, but let us see. Oh, I dropped the eye. I'll be back. The eyes stuck to me, and then they flew. But I found them. I don't know, you guys, this getting old is. I seem to be getting clumsier in my old age. I'm trying to think of my mom. Did my mom get clumsier? She wasn't a clumsy person. I seem to be the one. Yeah, it's true. I don't know, it's always been that way, so I guess it's always going to be that way. All right. I just want to trim some of the excess away, like so. All right, so let's check it out. Well, now that is wider. I can easily fit one eye between them, so that's 3/8 of an inch. And look, this is more like 1/2 inch. So I think what I'm going to do just quickly is cut some off on both sides. Might as well cut the seam. Try to cut straight down, so I remove the same amount at both ends. Put them together. And I believe that is better. Yep. Now that spacing is more what I'm looking for. Perfect. Okay, excellent. Now the nose is going to be positioned in here, just like that. I think that's good. One of the things, you know, the placement of the features is important. Could drop it down farther, could... Now I think I'll put it there. All right, so to fill in this little triangular space, what I am going to do is roll a cylinder. Actually, trying to think about what would be easiest. Yeah, I'll just do the old cylinder. And I will cut 4 wedges. Okay, here we go. Cut it in half, straight down. Turn it, cut it in half again. And I now have 4 wedges. Now, 1 wedge will go here in the bottom. 1 wedge will go on the top. I use a lot of wedges to fill. Hang on to those, I might need them later. Okay, so at this point, let's turn this into a rectangle, okay? Now I filled in this space, really push it so it's really in there. I'm going to trim the excess away like so. Good. Now trim the top. Da, da, da. Okay, there we go. Now, let's figure out where la nose goes. La nose nose. Okay, I think that's a good place. Check both sides, of course. Okay, scrappage. All right, now we've got to fill the space around the head. So I am going to take my black clay and I'm going to roll several long strips. And I'm going to start wrapping. Okay, so, you know, I hope I have enough clay. Well, we shall see. Okay, let's do this. Let's do it. I'll prepare my clay and I'll be back. Okay, so I've got a couple strips here. Let's do it. Just take strips, and I've rolled these strips through setting number 1 in my pasta machine. I think I'm making a larger cane than I wanted. Oh, so you know, it happens. They grow. I may have to condition a third block of clay. It seemed like I had enough, but I fear I do not. Okay, a second piece, wrap her around. And I could go up and over the nose. I think I'm just going to try to do this. Trim it this way. Just kind of cut it. So slowly build it up. Well, it felt like 2 blocks were going to be sufficient, but I was wrong. I was wrong. So I will condition another. This is all I have left of my 2 blocks of black clay. So I need obviously more clay because I have to do ears and I have to fill in the rest of the space down here. So let me condition more clay and I will be back. Okay, I conditioned another block of clay and now let's continue our wrap. Now if you're just starting with clay and caning, it's probably a good idea for you to use a package color for large areas like the face and even the background. Colors that you're not going to have to reproduce yourself. Just get a package of clay, open it up, and you're set. Because you really don't want to get into a situation where you have to mix the color. Let me tell you, it's very difficult to match it up unless you have, let's say, a scale. You certainly need to have a formula for that color you want. So if you want to make your life easier, then start with making a black cat or a white cat or some color cat. Doesn't have to be a real cat, right? Who says you can't make a blue cat? There are blue cats. Of course, they're not like ultramarine blue or something like that. Okay, so I have wrapped again. Just a little bit of the nose is peeping out. So let me wrap that, because let's say this is all the clay I have. I have more clay, but let's just say, in theory, this is all the clay that I have. Let's say I live out in the middle of nowhere and I can't get more clay. Well, then you're going to have to figure out a way of stretching your clay, aren't you? Yeah, you can trust me. I've had to do that myself sometimes. When you're trying to stretch a little bit of clay, Sometimes you can, and I've done this, and you have translucent, then you use translucent to fill it out, because the translucent will not alter the color. Okay. All right. This is all I have, so let's try this. First, before I fill in this area, let's determine what the overall shape of the face is. What's the shape of the face? Now, another thing I do, you saw me doing this quite a bit, is I trim away excess clay as I go like that. Now that ends up in my black clay pile, doesn't it? Now here's another thing you can do. I didn't really want to do it, but I will do it. I can reduce this, cut some off, and just be making a smaller cane. So let's do that. Okay, and this works better for me than, let's say, just cutting a piece off, because if I just cut some off at this point, then the cane gets too short, and then it gets extremely difficult to reduce without losing so much of the cane. So for me, it's actually better to reduce it up to a decent length. Cut some of it off and continue. Okay. So I'm just trying to pull it, compress it, raise it up a bit, like so. Okay, now which is the better side and which is the worst side? Maybe I'll cut a bit off of both sides. That seems like a good idea. All right. Looks like I'm making a Muppet face. All right, so this is a good length or height for a cane. So let me just cut some of this end off, like so. Let me cut some of this end off. And now packing this cane and packing the face is going to require less clay. I can even cut a little bit more off of which end. Not exactly sure. How about this end? Like so. Now I need less clay to finish my cane because I eliminated this much. Okay, so you can imagine this much what it would take. Now I also at the same time have managed to save some of this clay if I need it. Just cut it away. There's more black clay. So what is around the features then becomes usable black clay, like that. That's a nice big hunk. There's more clay. Okay. There we go. All right. Now I am making a smaller cane. Now, the shape of the face, there's actually more clay here than I need, but now that I've managed to make it a bit smaller, I'm going to continue. I'm going to wrap around the bottom here for a while, and that just requires strips like before that I'm going to wrap around the bottom. I will only go from probably here to here, okay? And I'll just wrap to extend it down that way. Maybe a little bit farther, maybe here to here. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so I want you to see, what I did basically was I rolled this sheet through setting number 2, and then I went back and forth like that. Now, this line and this line represent the sides of the kitty face. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to cut that much clay off, like so. Just like that. Okay, let's take a look on the other side. That looks good. Okay. Now, now, how much area? I'm going to cut the bottom off to make this straight across the bottom, like so. Okay, just like that. So I've also been able to retrieve some clay that I didn't really need from the side of the face. Let's straighten this out right now. All right, this side. Okay, I'm just going to soften that corner a bit right here. All right, so after cutting some of it away and cutting from the sides, I have this much for the ears, and this much is plenty for the ears. So let me take this, roll it into a sheet, and then I'll be back. Okay, here's my strip, and I'm just going to roll it up. Yeah. Okay, good. Now, let's force this into a triangle. Pushing along two sides like so. As I'm pushing, of course, I'm bringing up a third corner. Flip it to the next side. Proceed like so. Flip, and you just keep flipping and pinching and flipping and pinching to establish the basic size, or the basic shape, excuse me, of the ear. Yeah, yes, when I was making those, the gray-blue kitty, I was having a heck of a time. I did. At one point, I made what looked like a dog. I didn't quite know why it looked like a doggy. It had to do with the ears, of all things. Yeah, it did. Okay, so let me just reduce these. I believe this is too large for the cat ear. Perfect for a dog, though. Yeah, I kept making, it was like, why does this look like a dog? I was having a heck of a time. All right. Quickly, how big do we have here? Oh, that's a good kitty. That's a good size for a cat. Yeah, I think I don't need to reduce any further. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work, though, on these two corners that will be against the cat head. Okay, so I'm just designating the two corners that are against my work surface as the corners that will be in direct contact with the cat head. Okay, so I'm just going to try to push them down while I have them against my work surface. Now, might help me. It'll help me a bit. You know, what can I say? It will. All right. I'm just going to take a tool and kind of try to push it down. Okay. Well, hopefully that'll help. Let's cut 2 ears. Let's get these up. Okay, so this ear is quite a bit larger. See, it's not exactly the same size. And so I'm just going to pull it out a bit, reduce it to make it just a tiny bit smaller. Okay, so let's see. What happens if I put you here, buddy? Okay. And this guy here. I'm making it smaller. Okay, let's push this into the face. Okay, kitty. How are we looking now? Hee hee. All right. Cute. There's a kitty. All right, so I think I'm going to pad this out just a little bit more in the face there. Take what remains of my clay over to the pasta machine. plumping out the cheeks just a little bit. That's where I want to go. Okay, so I made a nice angled cut so that this will fit right in here, right next to the ear, and then down to the base. Okay, let's do the other side. Nice angled cut like so. This guy goes right up against where the ear connects to the head, down along the side. Now, all right, now I'm going to try to, you see how this ear goes, and then it goes in, and then there's the head, and then in and out. Well, I'd like to eliminate that if I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my paint brushes and use this end. Let's see if I can work this down and okay. Can also use this spoony shaped thing on the end. Just try to push the clay down to fill that gap. Okay. Just like that. Now let me do the other side, and I will try to do the same thing here, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I did it. Best I could anyway. Let's just take this point and run it down in all the crevices, all little smoothed in areas. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a very thin sheet of white around. But before I do it, I'm going to inspect the overall shape and make sure it's what I want. Now, I tend to make my cartoon kitty faces like this with the wide bottom. That's not to say that's correct. What if you wanted to cut it down in here? What if you wanted to cut it like that and put a neck on it? You know, whatever. Anyway, before you put this white sheet around, you want to make sure that the shape of the cat is what you want. Okay, so I've decided this is what I want. All right, I'm going to take my white clay. I'm going to roll a thin sheet. Thin. How thin, you say? That's a good question. I'm thinking 3 is a little bit too thick for me, so I'm thinking maybe 5. Okay. Okay, so my pasta machine was a little dirty. But you know what? This side is going to go against black, so it doesn't make any difference. Dirty on both sides. Well, this side is going against the violet. I don't think it's going to matter. Come on, get off. Dang. See, that's the problem. You roll a sheet too thin and it does this kind of thing, all right? Okay. I think I'm going to make it anyway. Okay. Now, this white line is important because it really does define the shape of my little cat. Just imagine what this would be like without it. So that's pretty much why I've got this line. Makes a difference. Makes a difference. Let's get rid of these. Like so. Now let me take my needle, push that white clay down into the recesses, like so. This is what I have so far. Now it's time to pack the background color, which for me happens to be straight violet, right out of the package. And I'm hoping this is enough. If not, I have more. See, this cane is bigger than I had intended to make. It happens to me. It happens. If you see any air bubbles, you know, take a needle, pierce, push them out, that sort of thing. All right, so I'm going to make several strips that are this width, and I think they will be through a medium setting, like 3. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is wrap the whole thing in violet, the whole kitty cane in violet. And this sheet, if you're new to caning, is what will prevent, or it will maintain the nice straightness and evenness of that white line. If I just started pecking willy-nilly around that white with violet, then I would create air pockets. And whenever you create air pockets, you get distortion because the air pockets, the air tries to escape. It goes where it wants to go. The clay fills in the space, and what you get then are some unhappy accidents. Yeah, you can trust me on that. All right, so that's the first. Now, you know what? I think I'm going to wrap with another, and this one is thicker. Now, the first one was setting 3. This sheet is through the thickest setting of the pasta machine. And this time I am only going to go up the sides. Okay, so here we go. We'll go up the sides, and then we'll fill the space in between the ears. Okay, I think one more like that. Oopsie. All right, one more. Okay, now I think I can trim the sides. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, see how it's slightly going in this way? So what I'm going to do is try to cut from here, right here, to this corner here. And let's see how that goes. Like this. Now let's start on this side from here to that corner. Have a little vacuum there. Let's try the other side. If I get something like this, see how it's indented? That's easy enough to deal with. You just pick something and you fill it in like so. And then you trim the excess away like that. Okay, so let's try this side. From here, that to there. From here to that corner. All right, I think I can cut a little more at the base. See, it's still not perpendicular, like it's still going in just slightly that way. So what I'm going to do is stand it up this time and cut straight down and see if I can even it out that way. You always have to be careful not to cut away too much, because if you cut away too much, you will cut into the cat or whatever image you have in the cane. Okay, so that's good. I think that looks good. Now, what remains is to actually fill this space in here. This is how much I have left. So let me roll this out into a sheet again, and we will work on filling it up. Okay, so there are several ways that you can fill this. You could take a strip like I did down here through setting 3 and just And every time you go in, you have to make sure that that sheet is really pressed into that crevice. Or you can make this shape in a mass of clay and lay it in. So let's try doing that. All right. So I've got my clay sheet. I've rolled it through setting number 1. It is about the same width as the cane is tall. So let me just roll a nice tight cylinder like so. Just going to push the ends in like this. So maximum, I'm using all of the clay. Won't be having to trim any of it off because I'm just pushing it all back into the mass. Like so. Okay. All right, now, if I had more lavender clay, I would roll a great big cylinder and cut it. And then I would have a shape that would fit in here, because that, if you can just imagine, if it didn't have this flat area, it would be about 90 degrees. It would be, maybe a little wider than 90, but close. So what I'm going to do is take this and try to force it into an equilateral triangle. Okay. Now, if you think that the sheet method would be easier for you, then by all means use the sheet method. I've done both. Okay, so we're getting there. I'm gonna flatten this out so I increase the actual size of it. And that's looking pretty good to me, like that. However, it is the wrong shape. So what I'm going to do is cut right there. Try to cut straight down. Like so. See? All right, now let's see if this will work a little better. Might have cut a little bit too much. Let me try to flatten the side opposite this. Cut out a little more, make it a little wider. Okay. Now I'm just trying to push it so that it fills that space. Okay, that's looking good. All right, now all I have to do, let's make sure the corners are good here. I'm gonna cut some of this. Cut some of the excess off there and off of this side as well. Okie dokie. Now, let's cut the top of this off. All right. That is pretty much it. Kitty, kitty. So now I'm going to let this sit for maybe an hour or so, and then we're going to reduce the kitty, kitty. Oh my goodness, look at him. Okay, my peeps, let's start reducing this. Now I'm gonna flatten, flat face. Let's flatten the other face. Now, when I flatten it out, I'm kind of hoping that the flat parts stick to my work surface. And then I can start like this. And I'm taking this part of my hands and I'm kind of pushing at the base down here, like that. And then move, like so. Okay. Like that. Like that. No, let's see. See, it's still pretty flat. It's not perfect, like these parts where the clay is kind of sucked in. Well, I'm not going to be able to get them out. It's just the way I constructed the cane. I could have done a better job at it. You're always going to have waste though. So I would say resign yourself to the fact that there's always waste on the ends, but happily, there are many things that you're going to use that waste for. Never gets thrown away. You can take black out and make it black. I've done that with pounds of my scrap. As a matter of fact, I'm running low on scrap. I am running low on scrap because I made so much black. I did a whole series of black and white canes, and all that black was, well, black. Blackout black. All right, so I didn't do a heck of a lot, but it is a little bit smaller. Now, let's take this side and stick it down and repeat. I know you guys are boiling everywhere, and I'm wearing polar fleece in my basement. Okay. Squeeze. Squeeze. Like so. And sometimes I go like this. Because that twisting thing really helps get the clay in the middle moving. Twisty, twisty. Press. Press. Twist. Press. 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 You know, I only use Kato Polyclay. I have only used Kato Polyclay for so many years. Since probably 2001. So I can't tell you much about the way other clays respond and how fast you might be able to reduce other canes. Now, I can tell you this, however, I have some really, 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 really old canes. Okay, I have canes that I made in my caning book, which was published in 2007. That's a long time ago. And I can still get them moving. For instance, the face canes that were in that book, I still have them and I still use them. And I know that that isn't true with some clays, that it's extremely difficult to start reducing a cane that is very old. The clay will crumble. I can't remember which one though, so I'm sorry. You guys might have more information about that than I do. Like so, but I have some very ancient canes around here. Sending my energy to the middle. Now remember, I did kind of soften this area in here. And see the softer clay? See that eyeball in there? Well, it's not hanging back because the clay is softer. It's responding to my pressure. So as you're building your canes, it's really helpful to bear in mind where this particular thing you're working on is in the body of the cane. Those eyeballs are pretty much in the middle. That means that as I'm pressing on the outside, the last thing that's going to respond is this middle section. That's why softening the clay is so helpful. Okay. Now, of course, if I were making pins or something and I wanted big cat faces, then I'd be cutting and slicing and curing them at this point, but I'm not going to make any great big old black cat pins. I mean, that wasn't my intent. I could, it just wasn't what I had intended to do. What is my intent? I don't know. I don't honestly have any plans. I don't have any plans. So I think maybe I'll just reduce this out to about 6 inches and then, you know, cut in half and leave half big. Store big pieces, not 10 miles of small pieces. It's a storage issue. It is. I may have to take my hoodie off. Actually, it's not a hoodie. It's this thing I made. I was sewing for a while. COVID hit and I was sewing. I don't exactly know why. Oh, I remember why. I was making masks. I was making masks all over the place, and then masks turned to gaiters, turned to mittens, turn to hats, turn to tote bags, turn to those things that you put hot bowls in and throw it in the microwave. Yeah. My problem is if I get caught up in something, it's like I can't just stop at masks. It just goes on and on and on. I don't know what it is. I think I inherited that from my mom. My mother was like that. Yeah, you don't stop at one thing. You just keep going and going and going. All right, we're making progress. I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, I say that looking at the ends. You know, you really don't know how happy you're going to be until you cut into the cane. Okay, so now it's kind of long enough for me to kind of twist and pull. Get a baby, shake it up, baby, twist and shout. Oh. It actually feels really good. Now, when you're working, sometimes you can even, like, with a cane like this, I have had canes where I could actually feel something that was hard all the way in the middle, kind of like the Princess and the Pea. But this particular cane feels sort of uniform throughout. I'm not feeling like soft and then hard. And that's good because it should reduce more evenly if everything is moving kind of at the same rate. Or if I have no parts that are kind of hanging back. So I find it helpful, the twisting and also the bending. The flexing like this helps as well. Okay. Now it's kind of thicker in the middle. Okay, here we go. Okay. Okay, sometimes you get a part that's like it was slightly thicker, so you can just sort of direct your energy at that certain place and start pulling and stretching. Okay. Woohoo. Now, I think I'm going to cut some off so that I have some of my cat cane big. He's cute. He's chubbier than this guy. They don't all come out the same. So I got a skinny black cat and a chubby black cat. Okay, so this will go into storage. Just cut the end off so that it can sit like that. Like that. This scrap, so far this much scrap, that's not too bad. This is how much violet I have left over from a two ounce package, and this is as much black as I have left over from 3 2-ounce packages, or 6 ounces. I can handle that math. Okay, now this I will continue to reduce. I'll reduce it further, then maybe I'll cut off a piece this big, store it that way, maybe like that size. And then I'm not going to make anything really teeny like this. Not yet. I wait on that. Okay, so let me continue my reduction. It's just the same thing that I've been doing, so I'm not going to have you watch the whole thing. And then I'll be back when I've got it down to, you know, this size. Okay, peeps, so this is what I did. You watched me reduce to this size. I do have waste on the back here. I'm not going to cut that off. I'm going to leave it. Then I reduce down to this size. Cut a piece, then I reduce down to this size. Cut a piece, then I reduce down to this size. Okay. This is my waist so far. That's not too bad, but that's just on one end. I will have a bit more on this end because, of course, right here, it's not perfect. Okay, my black, my violet, and that is how you make a little black kitty. That's not too bad. Look at that. Okay. Ta-ta. Okay, guys, so here we are at the end. Big. Then I reduced it down, cut a piece off, reduced it down, cut a piece off, reduced it down to this smallest size. And this is the amount of waste I have. Now, I also have enough nose left to make another cane. Yeah, I'm going to keep the nose. Now, one thing, this is not all the waste. Because remember, this big one, well, this is not. As I reduce this down, there is going to be waste at this end. But I don't think that's so bad. Just that much. Goes in the scrap bin. Got this much black left over, and I have this much violet. So, we made it. We made it. I enjoyed making this. I'm glad I remade the class. This was the first one, and I thought, well, that's an interesting cat, but it's not the best. Yeah. So I decided to do the class again for you guys because I know you wanted the black cat. Now, let me tell you, there is another cat, this guy. Now, this is what I put in the members' classroom. So while I'm concentrating mostly on the simplest things in the open channel, because, you know, some people, maybe they're just kind of sort of interested in polymer clay. So I want to make the things that are on the open channel very doable, more easily done, requiring less special equipment and all the rest. So that's why I do the simple things. But if you want to do more complicated things, then please join the members' classroom. I love this guy. He's a lucky Neko. Yeah. Hello. Anyway. So a class like this comes with a template and the instructions are far more detailed. Anyway, that's it. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank you very much for coming to the channel. I appreciate your support so much, and I appreciate your subscribing. And if you like a class, then please like it. It helps me a lot. And I guess that's all I have to say. So I'm Donna Cato, signing off. Bye.